So the basic of rebuttal, what it is that we are respond to an argument or a statement that your previous speaker built. So, for example, I'm sure that through the first two sessions, you guys know how to build an argument. So you need to prove that why that argument is wrong, is incorrect by attacking on the three components that you have learned. First is the premise. Second is why is it true. Thirdly is what is the outcome of that premise. So you're going to dissect, rebut, prove these three components. Either one or all three of them is wrong. That's what rebuttal is about. So what to rebut? Like what I say, you would rebut that three component, which is the most important component in a certain argument. You don't have to rebut every single sentence. For example, when somebody is building their argument, they will include some filler word, some example that you don't really need to engage. I try to identify the three main component, the premise, the analysis, or why is it true, and the outcome. Try to identify these three components through a 7-minute, or I believe for the format is 5-minute, 4-minute speech. Try to identify these three components, only rebut on these three. You don't have to rebut every single sentence. That example is wrong. The fact is wrong. The data is wrong. The sentence is wrong. Okay, this is what rebuttal is about. So, a reminder, roasting is not rebuttal. For example, calling somebody is bad at English. You know what? Your grammar is wrong. You know what? You don't look pretty. You know what? Your accent don't sound as nice as the British accent. So that's why your argument is wrong. So roasting is not a rebuttal. Please keep that in mind. Okay? So as of now, do you guys have any question? Going once, going twice, going the third time. So I believe in the chat, how do we know if their fact is wrong? So, okay, I believe that you don't have to rebut on a fact. So, for example, water boiling at 100 degrees Celsius. You don't need to rebut that because it is a fact, it's totally correct. But how do you know what is wrong in the argument? Which part to rebut? This I will explain to you guys in the next few slides. How do we prove that they are wrong? Sometimes they might not. How do we prove that they are wrong? And I will explain it in the next few slides. So moving on, like what Edwin, I believe, asked, how do we know if they are wrong, or how do we prove they are wrong? So in that three component of your argument, in three component of your argument, which is context, the why is it true, and the outcome, so what. So how do we prove that the person premise is wrong? For example, I will give you guys, okay, how about this? I want to try to keep this lesson interactive because I feel like I'm talking to a lot of black boxes. So could somebody, could somebody help me to build this, help me to build an argument under this motion? I have sent in the chat, this house would ban smoking. Could somebody give me a context, a why true, and a so what? Could you guys type in the chat? I'll give you guys about 5 minutes. No, I don't think we have that much time. Yeah, I'll give you guys 5 minutes. So could somebody tell me to type it out? Give me that three premise and I'll show you how to rebut that three context. Give me that three component. You could type it out or you could voice it out. You could unmute yourself. Mm. Anyone is typing? If not, okay, to not waste time, bad for environment. Okay, that's a nice premise. So let me build an argument from that. So, an argument will look like, the premise is smoking is bad for environment, and the why true would be smoke. Smoking will produce will lead to air pollution. So the outcome would be a poor environment or poor health. The outcome will be poor. The impact will be bad for people well-being, the health. So if I want to rebut this, I can rebut on the three components. The first component, bad for environment. How should you take it down? So the method will look like, firstly, prove what is unlikely to happen. For example, why bad for environment is unlikely to happen? Because it might be because it's less likely to be bad for environment because the smoke produce, okay, I shouldn't say that. So smoking is bad for environment. It's not bad for environment because of people tend to, okay, so under the wait, I'm a little bit jammed. Okay, let me rephrase. So under the proof, how do you prove a context is unlikely to happen? You can prove from two layers. The human incentive, human is less likely to do so, or the second layer is the volatility. Basically, is why this scenario is unlikely to happen. So in this case, the bad for environment, we can't prove human incentive is poor because people would definitely smoke under stress. We should prove the volatility. The volatility will look like smoking is not bad for environment because the smoke produced by cigarette is not as much to be bad for environment. Another second way to rebut bad for environment will look like, for example, it's not just the smoke of the cigarette is bad for environment, the butt of the cigarette is bad for environment. So the second way to rebut is that telling that how maybe people awareness nowadays is high, so people is not tend, so human, they don't tend to throw the cigarette butt away. So this how you disprove it by using the human incentive method. And then second way is that so the second step is to provide an alternate framing of this situation. So yes, you now prove that the bad for environment is wrong. So what is your framing in this case? So cigarette is not bad for environment. If we ban smoking due to health risks, Okay, let me continue the alternate framing first. So after you prove that this scenario is unlikely to happen, you need to provide what is your framing, why we shouldn't ban smoking. Provide your context, your premise. We shouldn't ban smoking because, like what Jian say, because people will opt for other ways, so we shouldn't ban. People will opt for other bad behavior like drinking, drug. So we shouldn't ban smoking. That's your premise. This how you taken down a premise. So stop us from. Okay, so to answer Jian question, I'm really sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. I'm really bad at pronouncing people name. So if we ban smoking due to health risks, what stop us from banning alcohol, sugar, or driving? Okay, so your question is actually a POI that we will touch later on. So to explain it now in brief if we want to rebut in such a way, for example, Yusof say smoking, no sorry, for example, I say smoking is bad for health, so we should ban smoking. And Jian asked me, if we ban smoking because it's bad for health, why don't we ban alcohol? Why don't we ban sugar? How I would answer that POI, it will be in a way that how smoking is at a different weighing between for example sugar, because sugar is one of the necessity of human lifestyle. We shouldn't ban it at all. What about people with low glucose level? What about people with health risk? They need sugar. What about people on diet disorder? They need sugar. So you shouldn't compare smoking with sugar. This is one of the way to answer a POI. And this is actually out of the context of rebuttal. It's actually part 2, but I'll answer it now since Jen is asking. Company and worker that produce this cigarette face jobless. Yes, this is one of the other contexts. So opposition will say company and worker that produce this actually a argument, a premise that will be raised up by the opposition side. So opposition will try and tell this house shouldn't ban smoking because company and worker produce this cigarette will face job loss. So how I would rebut it on a premise level? I'll rebut it in a way that, for example, this company, this worker, the chances of them facing job loss is less because the government is not going to ban smoking in a day, in a short period of time. So this company and this worker will have time to opt for the other job when the government implements such a policy to ban smoking, because on logical thinking, on government incentive, they are not gonna ban smoking in a day that you are going to face job loss in a short period of time that you are not able to respond. Government only able, their incentive would be banning smoking stage by stage, phase by phase. For example, this might take years. This might take 1 year to ban the entire cigarette industry. So throughout that 1 year, this company, this worker will be able to offer the other job. And second way to rebut would be government would likely to provide subsidy, to provide compensation to these people after you ban this industry. So second way, so this is about premise. The first way we prove a premise is wrong. And then how we prove the logical analysis. Because sometimes their premise is correct. So we can't prove it on a premise level. It's hard for us to prove it. For example, bad for environment. It's really hard for me to prove it in a context level. So I would admit that yes, whatever Yusuf said is correct. Cigarette is bad for environment. So what is I will ban it on a logical analysis level. For example, Yusuf might provide me an analysis that look like a cigarette is bad for environment because of the cigarette butt that being thrown by people will lead to land pollution, will create a lot of unnecessary waste. So this analysis provided by Yusuf, for example. So how will I prove that is wrong? Step by step, the first step is that I'll prove that I will find a loophole in that logic. For example, is it necessarily that people throw cigarette butt will lead to pollution? For example, there's a loophole there. People throwing cigarette butt, but understand that our cleaner is working really hard, that they will clean up the cigarette butt right away. Or second way, the loophole might be, for example, our country provide enough dustbin for this smoker, so they will be able to throw this cigarette butt into the dustbin, so they won't throw it on the ground, so it won't lead to pollution. Or you might want to say that you might want to prove it in the way that even if people throw cigarette butt on the ground, even if it lead to pollution, this is not the major cause of pollution because of, for example, the awareness in the society where people tend to throw whatever, not only cigarette butt, people tend to throw plastic bag, their food packaging on the ground. They have a bad habit. This is a society issue. So it's not by banning smoking, you're not able to save the environment, you're not able to save the world, because this is not the only reason. So this is the alternate process. So pollution is not necessarily because of smoking. Smoker is also because of the society bad behavior. So if that's the case, your claim is wrong because you're not able to help to clean up the environment by only ban cigarette. You don't solve the major issue. So if that's the case, why would you want to ban cigarette because of environment if you don't solve the issue? So this is the example of alternate process. And last way is proof that the logical linkage is false. For example, the cigarette butt lead to air pollution. You could prove that is wrong by saying that cigarette butt don't lead to pollution because, for example, cigarette butt is actually somewhat biodegradable because it's made of paper, it's made of the weed, which is biodegradable. So this is logically wrong. If it is biodegradable, how would it lead to land pollution? Because at the end, it will be degraded by the environment. So this the example of logical analysis, how you break it down from a logical analysis level. Understand that in this case, I actually admit that the context is correct. I admit that cigarette, yes, it will to a certain extent lead to bad for environment because people throw cigarette but all the way. So I prove it through three ways. I find a loophole where there's enough dustbin in the country, there's enough hardworking cleaner in the country. I prove that this is not a major issue. If you try to claim banning cigarette will be good for environment because people is not going to throw the cigarette butt all the way, I prove that there's alternate process to reach to the good for environment because understand that how it's not a major issue, it's a societal issue. So your ban smoking lead to good for environment is not solid. Second thing, I also prove that I also prove or show you the example of why B is false. I try to tell you how cigarette butt is biodegradable. If it's biodegradable, how would you able to claim that it's bad for environment? And the last way to rebut people would be outcome. Rebut on outcome level, try to disprove, try to minimize their outcome. For example, smoking will be bad for environment. So because people throw cigarette butt all the way. So ban smoking, we are able to save the environment. So why the outcome is false? Because the outcome is false of saving the environment. I think I already show you in such a way before. So the outcome would be, for example, so the step by step to disprove the outcome is, firstly, I'm gonna prove the outcome is false. So the outcome is false because ban smoking does not lead to good for environment. Because this is not a major cause. Environment pollution is the major cause of pollution is because of human behavior. So banning smoking don't lead to solving pollution, saving the environment. I prove that this does not happen. And what is the different outcome once you ban smoking? A different outcome would likely be, once you ban smoking, how this group of people will opt for other alternative. For example, they will opt for black market. They will opt for black market. They will opt for other alternative like drug, alcohol, and how it lead to even worse environment. For example, if you want to talk about drug, how the syringe, the needle is not biodegradable. When they use it and throw it all the way around, it will lead to even worse environment. For example, when they opt for illegal black market, how this group of people would likely buy this cigarette from an illegal source that government is not able to track, and how would they dispose their cigarette, dispose maybe the cigarette box, the cigarette butt, because they don't want other people to notice. They'll burn it down on their own, and it lead to even worse pollution because they burn the cigarette down, so it lead to even worse. They burn the cigarette box down after the cigarette butt. They burn the cigarette box down after smoking. How it lead to even worse environment, because you're not able to track, you're not able to solve where this air pollution come from. And okay, even if after you prove that the outcome is false, this is not able to save the environment, this will even create worse environment, how it will be less important. Okay, even if, yes, it will be bad for environment, how even if ban smoking will be able to save the environment, why the outcome is less important? There will be no sufficient effect. The same way could apply by telling, like what I stated previously, how this is not a major cause. Even if they will be able, you know what, we reduce the cigarette butt, we reduce the smoke coming out from the cigarette, but the impact is low because the major cause might be because of the factories. The factory dispose the smoke unfiltered. The major cause will be because of the vehicle using fossil fuel instead of electricity, and it will be less. This is how we prove it's not sufficient effect. And second way to prove is less desirable to stakeholder, like what we stated previously as well. How, you know what, now people will opt for alcohol, people will opt for black market, people will opt for other alternative than smoking. So what would the government face? The government will face, you know what, it's now hard for me to track whoever is smoking because they opt in from illegal market. I can't control. I can't implement policy to solve the issue. For example, one day, because of everybody opt from the black market, everybody opt for the black market, the the lung cancer rate suddenly increase, and I'm not able to know why because I don't have the data. For example, one day because of the air pollution getting worse, the land pollution getting worse because of cigarette, the smoke, because of the cigarette butt, and me as the government, I'm not able to solve because I don't know where they get the cigarette. I don't know how much cigarette do they own. I don't have enough data. I'm not able to solve the issue. So it will be not good for the government. And the less desirable to stakeholder will look like now people opt for alcohol or for other illegal thing, drug. So which is far more worse or equivalent worse than cigarette. So it will also be not good for me as a government. So I don't want to ban smoking. This is how you prove this proof on an outcome level. So, okay, any question coming from anybody? So understand that your one particular rebuttal, sometimes you're rebutting the outcome, the logical analysis at the same time. Sometimes you only rebut on the one component, or sometimes your one line rebuttal can already cover the rebut on the context level, on the analysis level, on the outcome level. So sometimes the rebuttal is not as straightforward that to only rebut on the analysis level. It could also rebut on the outcome extent at the same time. So any question coming from anybody? Going once, going twice, going the third time. No question? Okay, our workshop only till 10. Okay, I might not be able to have a lot of interactive session because normally I would like to ask people question, ask them to show me a rebuttal, ask people to show me to build an argument, but because of time constraint, it's hard for me to do so. I have a lot of slides to cover today. If you have any question, you may type it out in the chat. You might stop me anytime, even halfway through my sharing session is totally fine. You could raise your hand, unmute yourself when you have any question. If you're shy, you might type it in the chat or ask me during the Q&A session if we have time. So moving on to the third slide. So we know how to rebut already, I believe. We rebut on the 3 level: context, logical analysis, outcome level. And sometimes the certain one-line rebuttal could rebut the logical analysis or outcome at the same time. That's totally okay. So that's what a rebuttal should look like. And then this is what a bad rebuttal look like. So here we have example provided in the slide. So a bad response, a bad rebuttal will look like ad hominem. So when you're attacking a person instead of the argument, for example, Yusuf trying to tell me how smoking is bad for environment. I don't attack Yusuf as a person. I don't attack him for having. I don't attack him, or I don't attack any debater because of how they look, how they speak, how their language level look like. I attack the argument only. So an example would be, I heard people really saying this in the debate ground. So understand that not all human beings are good human beings. So not all debater are good, not because of their professionalism, not because of their debating skill, but because of the way they present their language. So sometimes people will really telling me or pointing at me saying that I am delusional because I have bad English, because my grammar is not perfect. I should use perfect tense. I should use past tense. I should use present tense. I should add ing. I should add s, so on and so forth. So please, so you might not necessarily be the bad debater on skill-wise. You might not be able to create a best argument, a best rebuttal, but please be polite. Keep the debating world keep the debating work clean, I would say. Don't attack people on a personal level. Roasting is not a rebuttal. It's not a rebuttal. So this is what ad hominem. If you being ad hominem, for example, somebody is calling you because of is rebutting you, and the reason is because you have a different accent, you have poor language ability, you could raise it out. You could raise it to the uh what we call the equity officer. If equity officer, you could raise it to the organizing committee. Or don't take them seriously if they attack you on that. These people, they are not good debater in a sense of manner. So moving on is strawman. So strawman is misrepresentation. For example, one people would say, it's difficult to win Oscar award because of there's very little opportunity. There's a lot of people in the Hollywood. So the ratio between opportunity and the people is different. So it's hard to win an Oscar award. But the other side will represent it, will interpret it in a way that telling people, you know what, because of it opposition side is trying to tell me movie director in Hollywood is racist. So we can't win Oscar award. Understand that the first speaker only tell you because of the lacking of opportunity. They never raise it up to the race, culture, race discrimination level. But the other side misinterpret it, misrepresent it, telling you that you are actually telling another thing. In a debate world, if you face this kind of people, call it out by telling the judge, the speaker, the PM, DPM, LO, DLO, whoever they are, is strawman. Because of they misrepresent your argument, you're not saying that. So the third type of bad response is slippery slope. So when you argue, when a person rebut on a chain of negative event. For example, if we ban video game, soon social media will be banned because of is violent. It will involve violence, which is not necessarily going to happen under this snowball effect, because banning violent video game is not at the same level, not at the same playing ground as social media. For example, a better example will look like the question that I received before. So if we ban smoking, does it mean that we're going to ban alcohol, sugar soon, oil soon? Because it's both bad for health. Not necessarily, like what I say, sugar is actually a necessity of life for a certain group of people, which is actually a good thing under healthy usage, under control usage of it is actually a good thing. So that it doesn't so if we ban smoking under health risk concern cannot be translated into we will soon banning sugar, oil, snack, junk food because of health concern. So this is also a form of bad response. So it's okay if you guys make not perfect argument, not perfect rebuttal in today's session. Is totally fine. Even if after this session you are not able to create a perfect rebuttal, understand that it takes time, it takes practice to create a perfect argument, perfect rebuttal. Even I till today I can't create a perfect argument, a perfect response. So moving on, the fourth form of bad response is appeal to emotion. You're not analyze, you're not explain your context, you're not explain your premise. using logical analysis. However, you use emotion. For example, a premise that look like government is saving the children, and then continue with crying, continue with mourning, which is not correct. You should, in debate world, you should use logical thinking, you should use logical analysis instead of crying towards to persuade people. And then the fifth form of bad response would be hasty generalization. It's basically try to prove something without sufficient evidence and stereotyping. So an example would be, so my cousin play violin. Oh, sorry, my cousin play violin video game, and he is aggressive. So all video game player must be aggressive. This is a hasty generalization because its stereotype is there's no sufficient evidence. The only data they take into account is the person cousin instead of the real data. So another example would be or a typical example would be all women must be soft. It's a hasty generalization, it's stereotyping. Not necessarily all women must be soft. So this is what hasty generalization look like. So okay, let's make a short conclusion, a short summary, before we move on to the short summary. So may not anyone have any question regarding what bad response look like, or you need more example, or you have any example that you want to share with your friend? You can type it out in the chat or voice it out by unmuting yourself. Going once, going twice, going the third time. So I believe none. If you have any example throughout today's session that you want to share with a friend, kindly type in the chat. I will review it. Try to give you guys a few comments if I'm able to. Don't be afraid to share an example because no matter it's a perfect rebuttal or imperfect rebuttal or example that you share today, it will be a lesson or a chance for you to learn today, and it will be also a chance for your friend to learn together with you by sharing an example with your friend. Yeah, sure. So, let me take another example for let me go give you guys 5 examples real quick lah. So another ad hominem example would look like when you're attacking a person, somebody would tell me that I've received kind of like that kind of bad rebuttal in an ad hominem way, telling me that for example, in a motion that this house as a child, this house as a parent, or no, that's not a good example. That's not a good example. Another example of ad hominem would be somebody will be laughing at you, telling you that you know what, your argument is not solid because you're let me think, because you're having a bad accent, because you are a new debater, you don't have enough experience, I never seen you in a big competition, you're a first timer, so your argument won't count. This is an ad hominem example. I believe that most of you guys are new debater today. If in the future, if you've been to any competition, people is laughing at you, they deny your argument because of a very surface level reason, or a very illogical reason, like because you're new so your argument won't count, is an ad hominem. So a straw man will look like, okay, a more exact example of straw man will look like AI will help to reduce the burden of will help to reduce, okay, AI could help to reduce human burden on performing high risk tasks. For example, those people cleaning window on a skyscraper, those people working as maybe not soldier is not a good example. Like the people that clean window for skyscraper, the people who need they perform high risk job. For example, firefighter. Yeah, firefighter, soldier, those people who need to get on war, who need to involve themselves in high risk workplace, this group of manpower could be replaced by AI. And then the opposition pop out, stand up and tell me that I am supporting for example, they will pop out and tell me that, oh, you know what? I am telling that AI will take away all human job. So
Yeah,
I'm
like
not saying
teaching how to
that
do rebuttals.
Nimalan, so what's your question? Could you repeat it?
Okay, if I see you.
Sorry?
Tak apalah, you can't sit down and so please.
No, I don't think I'm gonna stay.
If you have any question, you could type it out in the chat. So another example of straw man would be the people will call me out by saying that, you know what, I'm supporting AI to take away all human job. But in my argument, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that only replace high risk jobs so people don't need to experience the high risk workplace. So I believe that I also provide another example for slippery slope already, which I take the example coming from GN that does ban smoking. If we ban smoking, does it necessarily mean that soon we're going to ban alcohol? Sugar, oil soon. So appeal for emotion, I think, is pretty straightforward. When people start crying when instead of explain it, they try to cry in order to persuade the judges. So most common mistake when people make when rebutting. So the most common let me finish the last example lah. So hasty generalization. I believe that the woman example would also explain it quite well. For example, all women must be soft. So moving back to your question, what is the most common mistake for people make when rebutting? The most common mistake that I've experienced is that they are not rebut on the most important thing. Like what I say, you should identify the three main components from your opponent's speech. You should identify the context. What is the logical analysis? What is the outcome? Because normally a speech that up to 4 minutes does not only one argument is not necessarily limited to 3 sentences. It will be up to 6, 7 because of the example or other less important explanation they use to clear things up. So you try to identify these three main component when you rebut. You don't rebut everything. I've heard a novice debater or new debater that rebut everything or rebut unnecessary thing. They rebut on example. They rebut or focus on rebutting some less important explanation. This is the major or common mistake that I noticed when people make their rebuttal. So the way to solve it is watch more debate video, try to practice more with a friend, try to be able to identify the three components in the previous speaker speech. So you will know how to rebut. So moving on to a short summary, what is how to do your rebuttal in a good structure, in a good way. So firstly, you will need to identify what your opponent claimed in summary. After your opponent's speech, the next minute you will be your turn. After the four-minute speech, the next minute will be your turn. So in that few minutes, you will need to identify or summarize the 4-minute speech on your paper. Okay, what is how many arguments did he or she make? What is the three components in each argument? Okay, that's the summary. And then before you do your argument, before you do your rebuttal, try to do signposts in your speech. For example, I'm gonna tell the judge, I'm gonna rebut the first argument on 3 levels. I'm gonna rebut firstly on context level. Secondly, on logical analysis level. Thirdly, I'm gonna rebut it on outcome level. This is what we call signposting. So you follow is like what we call penanda wacana, what we call cohesive devices, what we call linkers, or a short title for your response. So the judge it will be easier for the judge to follow. So moving on, you're gonna respond, start with your rebuttal. And then lastly, don't forget, this is also one of the common mistakes. Don't forget to do comparison to tell the judge your case is better. After you rebut, judge, this is our material, this is my case, this is my argument. What is it? I believe this is way better than the opponent one because I already proved to you why their argument is wrong on a context level, on logical analysis level, on outcome level. I disproved all 3, and I believe that my case is better. This is how you perform a rebuttal, what a rebuttal should look like. So wait, let me check. Impact. Okay. A few more slides to go for a rebuttal. So this is actually repeat what I've already explained on how to do your rebuttal on that 3 level: context, logical analysis, or outcome level. This few slides will give you a more clearer example. So impact reduction is what I told you guys before, how to do rebuttal on the outcome level. So you try to reduce the impact. For example, the other side will try to tell you that how by increased tax, all investor will leave the country. This is the outcome the opposition is trying to tell. So it will leave the government. So they will leave the country. So there will be slow economic development. So how you gonna prove that this impact, this outcome is false, or even if it's true, it is not important. So a rebut will be harm is mitigated, the outcome is mitigated, can be solved because of the investor will still stay, because of the economic uniqueness in our country, because of the direction economic development taken by the government. This is how you reduce the outcome. Prove that the outcome of slower economic development is not correct, it's false. Moving on is this slide, the arrangement is a little bit messy because I'm actually not the one who performed this slide, but who create this slide, but never mind. So this one for this correlation not equal to causation is actually relate back to our second level of rebuttal, which is logical analysis. So during logical analysis, how you can actually break the chain of causation. For example, they will claim that A lead to B lead to C, so you will need to disprove the logical linkage, prove that the logical linkage is wrong. So an example would be when For example, opponent give you a statement that increased ice cream sales would increase child kidnapping because of so that's why we should stop selling ice cream. So understand these two statement, statement is correlate. For example, when a neighborhood have more child, there will be more, the ice cream sales will be higher because children is the major consumer of ice cream. So when a neighborhood have more child, so definitely there will be higher ice cream sales. But does it able to translate that when we increase the ice cream sales, it will increase the child kidnapping cases? It cannot be directly translated. It is not, they have correlation, but they are not in causation relationship. So rebuttal will be just because of that one thing vary doesn't mean that it's the reason of that to happen. Yes, definitely a child with higher a neighborhood with higher child ratio, higher children ratio, higher children population, we have a higher rate of child kidnapping since they have more children in the first place. So it is not because of the ice cream sales whether it's high that lead to child kidnap. So correlation doesn't translate to causation. This is how you prove that the logical linkage is wrong. So the third way to do your rebuttal, this is on the first level, the context or premise level, how to prove that one scenario is unlikely to happen in the first place. For example, opponent were trying to tell me we should stop selling codeine, which is a cough syrup, to people because it can be used to create drug and addiction. So a rebuttal, when this is not likely to happen, we cannot stop selling because it's not practical, because it's not practical to assume people have unlimited access. And it's unlikely for them to get this cough syrup to an amount that can be used as drug to fulfill their addiction. Because they need pharmacy to give them the prescription, not subscription. Okay, but never mind. Later I will edit. So, just a background info. So for you to use codeine as drug, the drug in the way that it causes addiction, give you the feeling of high. What people say is that it will require a large amount. I've worked in a pharmacy before, so it will require maybe 1 to 3 bottles of cough syrup for you to use it, fulfill your addiction. So it's not likely to happen that pharmacy to give one person 3 bottles to 5 bottles of cough syrup in one go. This unlikely to happen. And people don't have unlimited access because of pharmacy won't give you, and they don't have the way to buy it, because if you want to purchase it from the pharmaceutical company, you won't be able to do so because this drug is also under control. The government won't allow you to do so. This is how to do your rebuttal on the first context level. So, yeah, lastly, the fourth way to do your rebuttal, what we call force dichotomy. This is also an analysis level rebuttal. Understand that so an example, what a force dichotomy is that you will assume that there's only one way to do things. This is what we call the alternate process. There has 2 routes to reach the C. So how we explain it is what we have a professional juggles, I would say. What we call force dichotomy is that that person assume that there's only 2 outcomes. For example, if you ban cigarette, people will gonna protest on the street or search for unhealthy alternative as coping mechanism. But does it necessarily the only outcome, the only scenario that would turn out? So no. So people can also come out well with correct support structure, for example, with the closed circle, with the government support to provide the government incentive to create for example, like how people get out from drug addiction, that place. So how we can create the same institution, same organization, like to help people get out from cigarette addiction or nicotine addiction. So it's not necessarily 100% that all people, after we ban cigarette, they will automatically go on street, protest, go for even best coping mechanism, even worse coping mechanism. So as of now, do you guys have any question towards how to perform a rebuttal? Um, Going once, going twice, going a third time. Okay, I believe that you guys have been sitting in front of your laptop or your any other gadget for such a long time. We'll take a rest for 3 minutes for toilet break, drink some water, whatsoever. By 9:13, we'll come back with part 2 of session 3. So throughout this 3 minutes, you guys may leave your question in the chat box if you have any. Go to toilet, drink some water, stay hydrated. So I'll see you guys at 9:13 before we move on to part 2. Okay, I'm back. Sorry for the 2-minute late. Okay. Okay, so I don't receive any question in the chat. We have the second part of today's session, which is what we call POI. I think I've touched it really briefly during the starting of today's session via GN question. So a few more slides to go. I believe that we should have time for me to ask or call somebody out to try to showcase a rebuttal or building an argument. So without further ado, let's get into POI. So through the first two sessions, I believe they have go through what a debate look like. So POI is a question that you may ask the debater who is speaking during their speech under the unprotected time, which is after the first minute and before the last minute. You may ask them question whenever you have any, and you also be questioned during that time. This is the purpose of POI is to increase the engagement throughout debate. This also why debate is so unique and different from public speaking, when you can communicate, you can engage with people. So how to ask and POI. So first step, write your question, write your POI on paper. Do not be reactive and take time to think of the POI. So a POI shouldn't be longer than 15 seconds. You cannot ask your POI consequently. For example, after you ask the first POI, straight away you ask your second POI. Once they answer, you need to get some time, at least 15 seconds before your next POI, even if you don't really satisfied with the previous answer. So you cannot be like, ask your first question and then they say, no, that's not important. And then you continue pop out and ask the second POI, argue on, my question is actually important. You cannot do that. Gap between 15 seconds before your next POI. If not, you will be accused as interrupting other people's speech, which is against the equity policy. So moving on, the third step before you do your POI, check with a teammate, make sure that you are making wise use of your POI, you are making use of that 15 seconds to the maximum, so you don't waste time. Because understand that period of time actually gone really fast, because you cannot ask in the first minute, you can ask in the last minute, and in that 4-minute speech, you only can ask between the first and second minute. So practice to speak it in 15 seconds and work on packaging. So try to keep it concise within that 15 seconds. Concise, well structured. So the type of POI will be trap POI, rebuttal POI. I keep mentioning POI, but POI actually refer to points of information. Actually can be translated into the question that you ask throughout other people's speech. So the type of POI will also be reminder, weighing, and clarification. Let's see each type of POI. So a trap POI will look like, do you also support XYZ, or what do you think XYZ happened? So an example would be, let's take the AI replace human labor example. So, for example, the opponent will say that AI will lead to job loss. People will lose their job. So we should not use AI to replace human labor. So I would ask a POI look like, so do you support slavery? Like, because when you're using manpower, you're asking these people, for example, to perform high-risk tasks. Do you actually support slavery? This is a trap POI. To us, I'm actually trying to trap these people, feeling like where I don't want AI to replace human labor, I ask human to perform their job as usual, will be translated to slavery. So I actually try to trap him into it. So what is the impact of it? So what is the outcome I'm expecting? I'm expecting the person is keeping in trap. So he or she might get panicked, not able to continue their speech that perfectly. So it will drag some time for me to work on my own argument, work on my speech. So trap them into that slavery ideology. So that and then they will they'll try to spend a few more minutes explaining to me the difference between AI, human labor, and slavery relationship. So this is what the purpose of trap POI. That's why you want to ask a POI. So it's what we call strategy. So they will have to explain. If they're not able to explain, they actually automatically turn into supporting slavery. Then they will lose on a moral standpoint. This is why we want to ask a trap POI. Somebody really like it. It will be really fun to have a trap POI throughout your debate because it just feels so smart and strategic. Okay, but this is actually harder than other type of POI, so I don't really recommend to all the new debater. But if you're able to perform one that's really nice, that's what we call strategic. So moving on is rebuttal type of POI. So a rebuttal type of POI is that an example would be answer. Okay, for example, Yusuf say that cigarette will lead to bad for environment. I will ask a POI. Did you know that cigarette butt can be biodegradable, so it won't lead to environmental pollution? So this is a rebuttal that asked in the POI form. You can actually do that when to so when you ask this POI, you actually said if your POI being able and successfully rebut their case, so you will save your time for rebuttal in your speech. Understand that your speech only limited to 4 minutes. You try to make your time optimum. Use your time wisely, so you rebut it throughout the POI. Sometimes rebut throughout a POI is not enough to taken down a certain argument. So you need to further explain it in your speech. For example, you will, after I ask this POI, in my speech during the rebuttal, I will also say things along the line of, judges, from my previous POI, I asked the previous speaker about the biodegradable characteristic of cigarette butt, and the previous speaker is not able to disprove this characteristic, which means their premise is wrong, their logical analysis is wrong, because if cigarette butt is biodegradable, their claim on cigarette butt will lead to land pollution is untrue. This is how we do perform a rebuttal POI. Thirdly is a reminder POI. So sometimes when it comes to new debater round, when both sides have new debater against one another, so sometimes the debate will go off topic easily. In the sense, for example, this house would AI should replace human labor. So for initially the debate will go with, you know what, AI shouldn't replace human labor because it will lead to job loss. And then somebody pop out with an explanation that if these people become jobless, they cannot raise their family, because they don't have enough income, they cannot have a child, it lead to low birth rate, so the population all gone. So, and then both sides trying to argue suddenly on, or maybe one side try to further continue the population all gone thing, and then the debate go into argue whether AI lead to higher population or lower population, instead of whether it should replace human labor. So this time, if you notice this thing happen, you know that this argument coming from that person is not relevant, is off topic. We should get back to the topic of motion earlier. You could ask a POI, for example, today's topic is about whether AI should replace human labor, how it help to increase efficiency, how it help to protect human rights, etc. Please engage. This is how you ask a reminder POI to remind that debater we're actually debate on A, not on B, not on C, D, E, F, G. So why you want to do so instead of letting him go all the way towards a wrong direction? Because your speaker score is highly depend on the entire debate round. If one side is gone, like when you are tulis your karangan, when you try to write your essay, when it go off tangent, off topic, how you will get very low mark. That's what speaker score would likely look like. I'm not sure whether they explained speaker score to you guys before, but if one person gone to a really wrong direction, not the debate on the motion, not debate on the right topic, it will impact the entire room or every single debater speaker score. It will not be a nice debate. So help the other debater by remind them to engage with the topic we are debating. Don't go off topic, so you can have a engaging, you can have an attractive debate, so you will enjoy the game. Don't feel like, you know what, because he or she is my opponent, I will just let him be or go all the way around to the wrong direction so I can win today's debate. Indeed, you can win because they go wrong direction, but understand that how you impact your speaker score is not good for a debate round, it's not good for your growth as a debater. So moving on is weighing POI. So for example, how to do a weighing POI. So let's take bench smoking for example. Opponent will trying to tell me how bench smoking will be able to save people health, improve people well-being. Opponent trying to tell me we shouldn't ban smoking because we get a lot of tax income from cigarette, so it helps to improve country economy. If we ban smoking, country economy goes worse. So in this case, you will want to do a weighing POI. I will ask the opponent, do you think human health is more important than the country economy? So imagine you're living in a world where, yes, the currency is so good, economy is so good, you're not experiencing inflation, but you are facing lung cancer, you are facing other side effect of cigarette, is that worth it? Even if the currency is so low, maybe roti canai priced back into 80 cents per piece, is that worth it for you to experience lung cancer, your family to experience other side effect? Definitely, human health is definitely more important than economy. So this is how you ask a weighing POI. So opponent will have to try to prove to me, I have to answer this POI by prove to me economy is more important than human health. If not, try to prove. Yeah, that's it for weighing POI. So last type of POI will be a clarification POI. So a lot of time, so if you ever watch a debate video, be an audience in a debate competition, so you will notice sometimes the debater speaking goddamn fast, or sometimes they are speaking an argument that you don't really see why is it relevant today, or that's talking about some concept they will never heard of, like overturn window concept, the utilitarian concept. Like these juggles, they just sounds, they don't really make sense towards a lot of people, especially for new debater. When you face some pro debater, even I till today in some debate round, I never heard of certain concept like a really new concept like transhumanism concept that I don't understand. I never heard of this term. That time I will ask a POI. It's totally okay to ask a clarification POI. Like, may I know, or could you clarify this concept? May I know why do ban cigarette lead to worse economy? For example, sometimes you have, as a human, definitely you have something you don't know. We don't expect, and the judge don't expect you to know everything. So it's totally fine to ask a clarification POI. No matter you're a newbie debater, you're a pro debater, it's totally fine. I understand that sometimes when you don't understand the concept, the judge also don't know the concept. So totally fine to ask for a clarification POI, so that you could engage in better and help the judge to understand the debate round better. So if the judge understands the debate round better, the round is clear, everyone can engage on one another, your speaker score will be higher. This is what we do during POI. Any question as of now? Going once, going twice, going the third time. I assume no. I believe we have time for maybe showcase, or I'll ask you guys to give me some example, or have Q&A session. So let me finish the slide first. So moving on, what you shouldn't do during a POI. Ask people to fact check. So in English debate, it's unique that we don't really focus on. We're not, we don't really focus, we don't really require an accurate fact. For example, you're trying to tell me that the poverty rate in Malaysia is around 70%, is around 60%, 50%. We don't really care about the percentage. I don't need exact number. Sometimes I don't even need the percentage. If you're able to provide me a logical analysis, for example, you're trying to tell me how the poverty rate is high, you are required to explain to me in the way that telling me that why the poverty rate is high, because looking at because of the Malaysian currency is going low, how the living cost is going high, how a lot of people lost job. So this mean that our country actually has higher poverty rate than 20 years before, where roti China is 80 cents per piece, when a lot of people is getting job. When as long as you have a uni degree, you can find a job. Unlike today, where uni student fresh grade can't get a job in current job market. And roti China is 1 ringgit 60 cents, double than back in 20 years before. I don't really need. We are not really. We don't need accurate data, so you don't need to waste your time ask your POI or try to attack other people on their fact, exact number, exact data. So don't do that. Don't rebut on fact like data, numbers. Don't POI on fact. Did you do your fact check like on website blah blah blah? My fact is 70%. His fact is 67%, which is wrong. Something like that. So distraction question. Don't ask how old are you? Could we follow each other on social later? Please don't ask that. Try to keep the debate round engaging. Only focus on whatever is discussed in today's motion. Don't go and ask other question that is not really relevant. So the third type of POI would be, the third thing for you to don't do when you ask at POI is personal attack. Don't pop up in the debate ground and say that you are a liar. Your whole argument make no sense. I have no idea what you are debating. Again, no matter POI, rebuttal, roasting does not equal to POI. It's called ad hominem. We don't attack people. We respect each other argument, even if you really have no idea what they are talking about. Their argument don't really make sense to you. What you should do is to ask a clarification POI. Could you clarify on XYZ? Could you explain to me? Don't straight come into a conclusion that your idea make no sense, so you lose the debate. Fourth thing to don't do when you're asking a POI, don't be long. Okay, so you don't have to repeat word by word whatever the previous speaker said. You say blah 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 blah. So my question is blah 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 blah. Don't be long. Keep your POI within 15 minutes. 15 seconds. Understand that the judge won't stop the timer during the POI. So the judge will continue the timer so that the POI time will be calculated in your 4 minutes. So let's say your opponent asks a POI that is 30 seconds long. So you will lose 30 seconds. Your speech we can only last for 3 minutes 30 seconds. That's how we calculate it. So don't be long. And you don't want other people to ask you a 1 minute POI, so you only left 3 minutes to speak, and your judge won't allow that to happen. You will be stopped by the judge telling you that your POI is too long, please sit down. So last thing to not do during a POI is that back and forth. Like what I told you guys previously, your POI should only be concise within 15 seconds. You can only ask one POI once. If you want to ask next POI, please keep it in 15-second gap. So don't ask POI like what do you think about XYZ? After the debater answer, you continue asking. So do you think XYZ is back? Don't continue like that. Get 15 seconds if you really want to ask a follow-up question. But it is not recommended to do so. Try to keep your POI written on try to write your POI on paper first. Be concise, be well structured, so you don't have to keep asking a follow-up question. So during your POI, you are expect you are expecting an answer that is concise, straightforward. Moving on is that, okay, this is how you ask a POI, how you don't do when you ask a POI. And last thing is, how do you actually respond to a POI? Yes, today last slide. Okay, let me wait. Okay, how do you answer to a POI? Understand that not only you're gonna ask other people could also ask you question. How should you respond? So when you don't know what they're asking, for example, like the slavery POI, the trap POI, especially during trap POI, I will put out and say that, do you support slavery? Without explaining further. And the opponent might not necessarily know what am I asking, what is the relevance between slavery and AI replace human labor. AI not replacing human labor. So when you are unsure of what is the relationship, why did this person ask such a POI? The weirdest POI I have ever heard is coming from my own uni senior. Did do sheep eat glass? Sorry, do sheep eat grass? I don't know what is the relationship between this POI and the debate. It's a trap POI that I can't see the relationship. I don't know how he will draw a conclusion coming from my POI. Coming from how I answer the POI. So we're unsure what they're asking. What is the relationship is likely going to be a trap POI. Try to be vague. Don't agree fully to anything that you're not sure. You could answer it by saying that, I don't think this POI is relevant in today's debate. Don't state your stance, don't agree fully if you're unsure. If not, the other side will make use of your answer, try to draw a conclusion. So this person is supporting certain ideology, so they are lost from a moral standpoint. So don't do so. Just telling them that your POI is not relevant in today's debate. Be vague. Even if you want to, you already stated we don't support slavery. Yes, I know that sheep eat grass. Don't explain it any more further. If you accidentally answer that, don't explain any more further. Continue with your speech. If you don't know any, just in case they weaponize your answer to harm your argument. Make it seem irrelevant. For example, if I ask a POI that look like a weighing POI. No. Okay. For example, let me take a better example like the AI and human labor example. So, like what I say, the other side will go to a wrong direction, that how AI could lead to low birth rate, lower population because people can't get a job, and they continue in that direction. So they may ask me a POI that look like, oh, so you are willing to sacrifice human population? I'm gonna make this seem irrelevant by answer this POI telling the judge that, judge, this POI is irrelevant because today's topic is about how AI are able to reduce human burden, and our stance is actually focused on human labor in high-risk workplace. So I don't see why the birth rate is not necessarily relevant in today's debate. Even if it's relevant, then you continue to explain. Even if it's relevant, understand that how this worker by continue their job, they're earning money by risking their life. Yes, maybe they're able to make million a month. They're able to make 10K per month, but is it worth it for the risk? Anytime those window cleaner at a skyscraper will always lost their life because of just to clean that unimportant window. Is it worth it? Even if they're able to make 10K for their family, will the family be happy? Will the family be happy to receive the 10K and losing their father, losing their husband? And this how I make it seem irrelevant, or make it seem, the first part, I make it seem irrelevant by telling the judge this is not a debate motion, it's about. And the second part, I make an even if. I'm not sure whether you guys learned this throughout the previous session, but I use even if it's relevant to continue solidify my answer. Like let's say, Judge, you really want to take it relevant, then why is still wrong? Why it cannot be translated into low birth rate? So third way to respond is weigh your material to be more important. This is how I do previously, like what I say, even is more important. Your husband life, your father life is way more important than the money that he make. This is what we call weighing. So how to respond? The fourth step is that if the POI was confusing, it's also confusing for the adjudicator, or what we call judge as well. So don't feel shy to ask for clarification. You can ask for clarification during POI, actually, but they'll have to, in that case, they can answer your question in the next POI. And then use your advantage if you know the response. If you know the response, if you know how to respond to that POI, just answer it. Use your advantage. If you don't know, you don't really understand what is the POI about, ask for clarification. Or be vague if you don't know what to answer. If you know the answer, you can always flip the question and ask it later. For example, like how to flip the question. They will ask me, you know that when AI try to replace this job, people will lose job. I'll flip it and telling it, do you know that if AI don't replace, this people, if AI don't replace these people will lose their life. I'll flip it and ask it back to them. This is how you flip it or answer it later. Sometimes you will also answer a POI later by passing it to your next speaker. For example, I will answer that POI. For example, I don't know what to answer. I will say that this POI will be answered in the argument of my next speaker. So if you're already a last speaker, try to be vague or ask for clarification. If you have the next speaker with you that you trust, he will be able to answer, or you guys will figure out the answer later, then you can pass it to the next speaker. Or lastly is that if you already answered that POI or will answer that POI, just tell the debater, I will answer this POI later in my speech, or I have already answered this POI in my previous speech. This how do you respond to a POI? So any question as of now regarding POI? I received one chat. What's happened if somebody answered the POI wrong? That's a trap point. So if that's the case, you answer the POI wrong, you answer the trap POIs, they weaponize and harm you, then in that case, you will need to rebut by proving that, try your best to rebut. For example, you accidentally answer the POI, not accidentally, you answer the POI saying that, yes, we are supporting slavery. You answer in such a way. So try your best, try your very best to rebut on their conclusion, telling them that, rebut on their conclusion that you are not supporting slavery. Or even if you're supporting slavery, you are still better than your outcome is still better than their outcome. Try to do your rebuttal. Try to do comparison to compare your word. I believe I already explained how to do a rebuttal. If that's the case, that if you answer it wrong, you answer a trap POI. But also be prepared that high chance, if you really answer a trap POI, that you lose, you admit that you're supporting slavery, you lost on a moral standpoint. High chance you're gonna, not 100% you're gonna lose today's debate, but high chance your performance will be demerit, discredit by the judge. High chance. And so when answer a POI, like what I say, if you don't know, be vague or pass it to the next speaker if you guys sure that you guys will be able to figure out an answer. Or make it seem irrelevant, telling the judge that this is what the motion about, that's not what they're asking, does not relevant to today's motion. And if you're able to answer, that is great. It will be extra credit for you guys in terms of your speaker score. It will be really advantageous if you're able to answer and flip it back to their side. Okay, flipping a POI is actually a more advanced. It's actually more advanced method to flip it back. A better example would be, let me think how I flip it. A better example would be, okay, a really advanced example I can think of right now, quite advanced, try to digest if you're able to. It will be look like, I've debate on a motion that talk about whether would you rather live in your world right now, or would you rather prison a kid that you don't know in a basement forever to achieve world peace. So there will be no pandemic, no war, no suffer in today's world. So both sides trying to argue on happiness. So of government that support prison that kid, ask me, would your people be happy living in current status quo, suffering from sickness, illness, pandemic, war? I flip it back and ask them, would your people be happy because they choose to prison that children? You are the one who caused the suffer, and in my world, I am not the one who caused for suffer. Even if pandemic happened, even war happened in Ukraine, I'm not the one who caused it. I will be happy because I'm not guilty. But your world, you will never be real. You will never achieve the real happiness because at night when you sleep, before you sleep, you know that your world without a war, without pandemic, is because all of you guys choose to prison children. That's how I flip it back question. Your people reach the happiness of my people, or my people reach the happiness. This the weakness of both sides. I flip it back. If they are not able to prove, why should I able to prove? This how an example for flip the question look like? So any question coming from anybody? I think we have 5 minutes more. Could I call somebody name to I don't have time to waiting for chat lah. To unmute yourself to try give me try to rebut okay, I'll give you guys an argument that we used before. The premise is logical analysis is and the outcome is okay. This is my argument, a very short one. The motion is still the same. How to this house should ban smoking. So could you guys and the logical analysis, the premise, logical analysis, and outcome is if we ban smoking, people will go black market. So because people is stressful and cigarette is the only way out. And the outcome will be if people go to black market, it will be hard for government to control. So could anyone give me any rebuttal on the context level, on logical analysis level, on an outcome level? Anyone could unmute yourself or type it out in the chat if you really want to. I would really prefer if anyone could unmute themselves. Or you could give me in the form of POI if you want to, any question that you want to ask if this is my speech.
Hi, can it be that it is very unlikely for everyone to have access to the black market, and obviously the prices are gonna be on the rise, so they won't be able or won't be willing to pay that much to feed their addiction, but they will opt for rehab.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's what a rebuttal is about. Firstly, you prove to me that how this is unlikely to happen because not everybody have access to black market. Secondly, how the risk of you getting arrested is actually not worth it. For example, cigarette, people will be not willing to go for black market because cigarette itself is not as pricey that you are willing to go for black market. I understand that how cigarette now, I'm not sure, I'm not a smoker, but let's say 30 ringgit per pack, I believe, not sure. But in the black market, it will be turned into 300 per pack. Will you be willing to buy that? And it's unlike drug that you can never get access of elsewhere. You never experience a cheaper price. So you are willing to pay for 100,000 for drug. So they're not willing to do so. The risk of it, the price of it is not worth it. So you disprove the context. You disprove the likelihood of this scenario. You also point out the logical linkage of how people will not necessarily go for black market because of the price, because of the risk. And you also tell me that there's other way out, the alternate process doesn't necessarily lead to black market. So under this scenario, when people feel like it's not worth it, they'll choose to rehabilitation instead of continue smoking. That's perfect. Anyone else want to have a try? I think now it's 10, so could I have one more volunteer, if any, or if anyone want to ask a POI to me? Going once. I'll give you guys until, if you are still thinking, I'll give you guys until 10:02 before we end today's session. Just give me 2 minutes, okay? 2 minutes. If waiting for you guys, any one of you guys want to have a try. I will really appreciate it if anyone want to volunteer. Please give me some response, show that somebody is really listening to today's session. One more minute. Anyone want to try to ask a POI? Even if it's a wrong example, wrong example is totally fine. This platform is for you guys to learn. That's why I'm here, spending time with you guys to learn from scratch. And a lot of you, I believe, are new debater. It's totally fine to make mistake. We are not born genius. If we are born genius, you won't be attending school in the first place. You won't be here listening to me, to that listen to me spending 2 hours with me today. If everyone is born genius, we don't need today's session anymore. So now it's 10:02. Thank you guys for joining. So if you don't understand today's session, I hope that you guys could reach out to us via Instagram, or via this phone number. We'll be answering all your questions if you have any afterward or during your practice, or I'm not sure whether a school teacher will be around with you guys. So try to contact this number if you have any question from today's session, or you have any feedback. You could fill in the feedback form. You could also put in your question in the feedback form, so the organizing committee could reach out to me so I could answer your question. And then I hope that today's major key away is not just about how to build and rebuttal, not just about how to ask a POI, could also be how to not roast people, to differentiate the difference between roasting and rebuttal. Be okay to make mistake, be okay to try out new thing. Oh yeah, sure, if you want to do it I think other people, if you want to leave, you may leave. I don't want to drag your time, but Khadija, if you want to ask one POI, yeah, sure. You may unmute yourself or type it out in the chat. So again, I hope that today's major key away is it's okay to make mistake. It's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to ask for clarification. This is the most important thing. And no roasting. Again, no roasting, no roasting. Or a jargon that we call no ad hominem. No personal attack. Khadija, you want to unmute yourself or you prefer to type it out in the chat? Okay, yeah, sure. Feel free to unmute yourself or type it out. Again, like what I stated, for others, if you want to leave, you may leave. I don't intend to drag your time so much. As a school kid, you need good rest. Yeah. Anyone unmute yourself?
Hi. So
Okay,
for the
hi.
rebuttal,
Yes.
is it true that banning smoking may lead some individual to seek out black markets alternative? This doesn't mean the government should avoid implementing the ban. The potential rise of the black market is not a reason to give up on public health policies. Instead, it calls for stronger enforcement, public education, and support system. That is my rebuttal. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, great. I really appreciate everyone for trying it out. So your rebuttal is actually more on outcome. It's on a weighing basis. So if we ban smoking, yes, indeed there'll be black market, but this black market is not worth it for us to risk public health. This is the first rebuttal they'll try to tell. This is the first rebuttal trying to tell me on an outcome level. How it's less important, it's not important in comparison with public health. So even if there's black market, yes, let's have black market as long as I'm able to protect majority public health. And then you try to solidify your rebuttal by telling me that how ban smoking is how ban smoking in your side could also be done on education basis. How when people awareness rises, they will no longer choose to no longer choose to go for black market if they understand how worse smoking is. So you solidify your cases, do a comparative, telling me that how black market definitely not as important, even if black market exists. How we mitigate the outcome is to raising people awareness. So you're doing an outcome rebuttal. Really appreciated. So we have performed context, logical analysis, and outcome level analysis. So let me get back to Khatijah. So you believe people should distress themselves by harming their health, then not find any other healthy alternative. Yes, this is a trap POI, I would say. This is a trap POI, but if I were to frame it, I were to word it, is that did you support self-harm? This okay, so whatever you're asking is correct, but to word it more what people say, more atas lah, like word it more professional, people will did you support self-harm? So if you automatically believe that people will, by hook or by crook, they opt for other bad alternative, then did you support self-harm? Really appreciated. I think you guys, I'm not sure how many of you, I can't remember who have debate experience, who did not, who never watched a debate video. But from the example that you give me, from the trial that you guys provide me, I can see that you guys understand and digest today's lesson very well. I can see really advanced trap POI. I can see people performing every layer of rebuttal. So congrats to you guys. I'm really, really proud of you guys. And hope to see you guys in Miri soon. So I think that's conclude today's session. I cannot accept any trial anymore because now it's already 10:08. So today major takeaway, be brave to trial. It's okay to make mistake. Don't roast people. So thank you guys for joining. I hope you guys enjoy today's session. Don't
Thank
forget to fill in.
you.
Thank you.
Don't
Thank
forget to
you.
fill in the feedback form. Yeah, thank you.